Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to another week of the AT&T Countdown to Kickoff. Mike Conti and Jason Longshore with you again, Atlanta United's radio broadcast team. We're going to review what's happened over the last week for Atlanta United and look ahead to Sunday's match against Inter Miami. It has been a very, very busy week, Jason, for Atlanta United with difficult road matches at New England and Philadelphia. And I know Atlanta United didn't quite get the results that they hoped for out of those two matches. They had a big hill to climb in Philadelphia, but I think there were long stretches of both matches where Atlanta United can feel like they're still on the right direction. And through 7 competitions this year, they've gotten results in 5 of them, which, considering all they're going through right now and adapting to a new coach and a lot of new players on the team, I think they'll take that.
Yeah, a loss and a draw against 2 of the best teams in the Eastern Conference from last year. And I think 2 teams that at least Philadelphia and CONCACAF play has shown you they're one of the best teams in the East this year. New England shown that to you in MLS play. Tough games on the road, and you were in both of them. You got the draw in Philly. Yes, they had the 3-0 aggregate lead coming in. That did change the way that game played out a bit. But the loss in New England, this is a team that was in the Eastern Conference final last year and was very close to making MLS Cup, and I think they're even better this time around. It's a good side. Let's jump into those New England highlights and see what we can learn from taking a look back at this. New England's a difficult opponent for Atlanta, but I thought in the early going, Atlanta United did create some chances. Carlos Heel is one of the best players in the league, and maybe especially one of the best players on dead ball situations. Incredible delivery for New England's best chance early on off the post, a header from Kessler that comes right off the face of the post, but Carlos Heel puts it on a plate to get there. He's so deadly when he cuts inside as well, and it's another kind of dead ball spot that you pick out Heel out on the wing. He gets the defender turned around, cuts inside, and just chips in a little delicate cross to the right back, Brandon By, cutting across. He buries the header. You give New England set pieces, you're going to give them opportunities. Brad Gazan with a great save, falling backwards on another just perfect delivery from Carlos Heel. But Atlanta kept fighting, and they kept pushing, and Marcelino Moreno running at Brandon By gets him slaloming, gets around him. Brandon By commits the foul. Moreno steps up, converts the penalty, and you're 1-1, and it felt like a different kind of game at halftime, Mike, because of what Moreno brought to the table earning that penalty.
He really was fantastic, and it was a good response for Atlanta United after dealing with some early adversity, the earliest that they've conceded a goal in any match this year. And I thought they responded a lot better to it on Saturday than maybe they did the prior Tuesday against Philadelphia.
Now, then we get to the most difficult decision of the night, and this was reviewed. It was initially ruled a free kick on the outside of the 18. Then it was reviewed, and this was a long sequence of time. I've said it consistently all week. I feel like this was not a clear and obvious error in the initial decision. I was a little surprised that this was reviewed. It ultimately was. A penalty was given. Carlos Heel converts the penalty from the spot. That ended up being the difference in the match. And it's a really controversial decision. VAR is something that no matter what league you're in worldwide, there's a lot of conversation about how it's used, when it's used, what situations it should be used in. This one felt like a little bit more of a reach in terms of that clear and obvious error line than I thought it was watching it live. And that ultimately decided the match.
You don't want VAR to re-referee the match. I think that's one thing that around the globe everyone agrees with. You don't want VAR to re-referee the match. I'm not really 1,000% sure that I saw a clear and obvious error there. I'm still not 1,000% sure I saw a conclusive angle that was a penalty. But you make your own luck, and you got to give New England credit. New England's very good. That's a tough team to play on the road. And Atlanta United will play him again at Mercedes-Benz Stadium, but I have very little doubt that New England is going to be one of the 7 teams of the Eastern Conference that makes the postseason. They were very close to going to a cup final last year.
Yeah, you cannot give them dead ball situations, and Atlanta gave them too many set piece opportunities last week, and Carlos Heel made you pay. Now, the second game of the week, we go to Philadelphia, or we go to Chester, PA, for Atlanta and Philadelphia, second leg of the CONCACAF Champions League. Philly came in with a 3-0 lead, and they didn't just sit back and defend here. They did play on the front foot. Atlanta controlled the play. Philly played on that counter that is so dangerous for them, and there was space. And Atlanta had to risk more going forward to try to get an early goal. They ultimately weren't able to do it, and Philadelphia had some chances early on. That shot right at Brad Gazan, easy to handle. Santiago Sosa gave Atlanta a lifeline in the series with a brilliant turn, brilliant finish from Santi right at the end of the first half in stoppage time. The turn you see again, he gets his head up. He knows the defender's closing down. He picks out the far side netting. We've seen so much defensively from Santiago Sosa. This shows you what he can do in the attacking half when he can get forward. Philly, again, didn't just sit back in the second half. They get a chance off of a corner. Glesnes with the header that goes over the bar. Montero was a handful for Atlanta throughout the two games. Delivery on set pieces. This time it ultimately is a looping header that comes off the post. Philadelphia was the better team in the two legs on the scoreboard. In terms of the run of play, it was a lot closer than the aggregate score ended up. But Philadelphia had their moments here. Atlanta wasn't able to have enough moments. And late, as Atlanta is throwing everybody forward to try to get something out of it, you get in behind and everything kind of falls apart. Miles Robinson not able to make the play on Santos. You get the runner here, walks, lunges in, and Philadelphia gets the goal from Shabilko. And Shabilko, such a dangerous player, Mike, such a quality forward in this league. He picked those spots on counters and hurt Atlanta in the series.
So Philadelphia moves on now to the semifinals of the CONCACAF Champions League. Atlanta United is out. I think just for some perspective, though, Jason, when you're down 3-0 on aggregate and you've given up 3 road goals going into the road leg, your expectations are not very high, at least from an observer's standpoint. I'm sure the players and technical staff would probably say differently. But you got to go in the first half in stoppage time. You had Philadelphia feeling like they were in danger in the second half. And I think from a realistic standpoint, that's about all you can ask for out of Atlanta United.
Yeah, you made a game of it. You would have loved to have gotten a goal earlier than stoppage time in the first half to really make Philadelphia sweat a bit. You still did, and you had opportunities in the second half, just ultimately not enough. It's really difficult to go from Saturday to Tuesday in a game where you've got to chase it. Philadelphia did have the option of sitting back more. They were still dangerous on the counter, and I give Jim Curtin a lot of credit for, I think, having the right game plan. If they had conceded possession totally and sat back, I think Atlanta would have created more chances. They made it more difficult by playing Atlanta straight up, and they showed their quality. And ultimately, again, they're the better team. They go through. But Atlanta was in this a lot more than that score line would show you. Later in the season, hopefully, when you see these two teams play again in league play, and look, you can't ignore the comments that were made after the game. This is going to have a little bit of extra spice to it when these teams play later in the season because of what we saw here. I think it will be a lot closer on the scoreboard because of what we saw here as well.
Yeah, that's not that long from now, by the way. Mercedes-Benz Stadium next month, Philadelphia Union will come to town. Well, Atlanta United gave up a goal right at the very end with everyone pushed up on Tuesday. They gave up one open play goal on Saturday. The penalty was very controversial. So the defending's been really good. And I think Alan Franco, Jason, has really become a big part of that as he comfortably kind of assimilates into this team.
Yeah, let's take a look at Alan Franco and some of his highlights. Most of these are going to come from Independiente, where he was a star and won the Copa Sudamericana on a team with Ezequiel Barco. Became one of the more highly rated young defenders out of Argentina, Alan Franco. So physical. I think that's something we've seen a bit here in his time in Atlanta already. You're not going to beat him with a little bit of a stiff arm. You're not going to be able to knock him off the ball easily. Alan Franco, very tough center back, but he's also got good pace, and he's got a good read of the game here. This one jumping in front of the passing lane, good touch to settle the ball, not just lose it, not just blast it into the stands. Alan Franco is a player who I think has a lot of room to grow. Alan Franco is a player who, in this style of play under Gabriel Heinze, does have some things to learn. I think he didn't see him on the ball quite as much at Independiente. They weren't really a possession-based team. So his work on the ball will be something that he has room to improve. But as a straight-up center back, defender in the 1v1, winning set pieces, Alan Franco is about as good as you're going to find in this hemisphere for his age. He's a player who was highly rated in the Argentine First Division, and a lot of people expected that he would have left Independiente sooner than he did. He got the opportunity to be linked to Cruz Azul, to be linked to the LA Galaxy. See, Gwen's a big fan of Alan Franco, watched a lot of his games at Independiente. She's making sure that her opinions are known here. Franco, once he gets fully fit, once he gets fully embedded into this team, will be a very valuable part of the squad.
Gwen sounds like me when VAR buzzed down for the on-field review on Saturday.
Yeah, that was about right. Yes, 100%.
Well, Alan Franco has developed some really good chemistry with Miles Robinson and Anton Walks. I'll be curious to see what the center back pairing is going to be Sunday in Miami, because Heinze does have some options here. He's got 3 really good center backs playing at a very high level right now. Now, earlier this week, and you'll notice in a moment that I'm at home when we conducted this interview from Darren Eales, we had a chance to talk to Darren about a number of things related to the first couple weeks of the season for Atlanta United. And I also thought Darren had some interesting comments about what MLS needs to do to be a little more competitive in the CONCACAF Champions League going forward. Darren, thanks for spending some time with us. We're now 7 competitions into this 2021 season. So how do you evaluate how things have gone so far?
Yeah, hi guys, good to be on. Look, I think it's been interesting. We've had Champions League. Obviously, it's our 3rd season of playing the Champions League, and it doesn't get any easier. I think we've seen that with the way the MLS clubs have ended up. I know Philadelphia obviously got through against us, but the other clubs, Columbus Crew, who everyone was talking up as MLS Cup champions and had strengthened the squad, they're out of the competition and they've yet to score a goal in the MLS regular season. So what I think you've seen, and I know we've got our 4 points. We're the top point scorers of teams that have made Champions League, and the other 4 clubs have a -8 goal difference in MLS. So it's pretty incredible, and I think it just shows the difficulty of combining the 2 tournaments, particularly when you're at the start of your season. So from my perspective, obviously disappointed. I thought we played really well the first half against Philadelphia. I think we score a couple of those chances. It's a totally different series. But, it is what it is. We're out of that tournament, but now we have to focus on the league. And I feel like, we're in 5th place. We've got 4 points. We've had some tough games. New England are a very good team. So I don't think there's any shame in not getting a win there. I think Orlando, as we know, are going to be strong. So I feel like we've had a tough first 3 games in the league. We've got a lot of improvements to come, we know. It's going to be a process. So I think I'm excited to see how we develop now as we go into the summer.
One thing I was really surprised about coming into this season was the quality in the Eastern Conference specifically. I think the East feels like it's better than it's ever been since Atlanta United started. Really competitive, and you see it with Orlando, with New England, with Philadelphia. The teams Atlanta's played, it's been a tough schedule so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously coming up with Miami, even Montreal, who everyone had sort of, the pundits had said was going to struggle. They look really sharp in their first few games. So I do think that the East has got a lot of depth this year. I agree with you, Jason.
How much does it help now, Darren? I know you want to keep going in Champions League, but now that it is over, you're about to go into a stretch where you're going to have a full week to train before every match. I have to think that's going to be helpful for Gabby and the group as they still try to navigate these early days of the season.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we didn't want to get knocked out, obviously, Mike, but I think if we look at the positives, it is that now, we've got a chance to focus on the league. And as you say, with a new manager and with some new players that are getting involved, it is difficult when you go from match to match because you don't really get a chance to do any prep work. So I think that, that's going to be a good chance for us to try and get, I think defensively we've looked good. I think we've looked solid. I think, on the attacking side, we've had our moments. Like I said, that first half against Philadelphia is exactly what I think Gabby wants out of the team. We were pressing, we were counter-pressing, we were creating chances. I think that's what we'll be working on. And I think naturally, as the players get more chances to adapt and to train with Gabby, that's going to come easier and easier.
I want to go big picture with you, Darren. And since you've been here since late 2014 in Atlanta and involved in the league and seeing it grow, where do you feel like the status is of Major League Soccer and how much it's grown from when you came to the U.S. and came to Atlanta to now?
I think it's improved year on year. I think when I came in 2014, obviously they always use the Champions League as that sort of measuring stick, and ironically, we haven't done that great in those intervening years. But I think the gap has definitely decreased. I think the TAM players has helped that ability to get those players. I think the new youth slot that we brought in is going to be something else that's going to help us narrow the gap. But I do think I think the league's done a great job in incremental growth. I do think we're coming to a little bit of a moment in time where at some point there has to be an ability to let clubs that want to strengthen their roster within competitive balance. And I get it. There's always this dynamic and this tension between wanting to have competitive balance and allowing clubs that want to spend on their roster to spend on their roster. And I think my personal view is the competitive balance in Major League Soccer, it's already more balanced than most leagues because you have the playoff. So my view is if every team at the start of the season has a decent chance of making the playoffs, that's all you can ask for. Because once you get to the playoffs, it's naturally balanced because it's cup competition. So for me, I think that's where philosophically the league's got to look at how much are they willing to try and push the envelope to let the league get better, to let clubs increase their roster, those that want to. And look, there's different ways to do it. You don't have to do it. You can have your homegrowns development like a Dallas, but for those clubs that are getting 40, 50, 60,000 crowds who have the ability to push the envelope, trying to find ways to do that within the bigger scale of competitive balance, I think is the needle that needs to be thread. And with the TV deal coming up, I think we owe it to to be able to gain those bigger media values. I think there's an element of to do that, you've got to be able to increase the level of play. So I think the league's done a brilliant job. I think it's difficult because of the nature of the league with different sort of clubs in different positions. But I do feel the time's come for looking at how can we do it without not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Clearly, the competitive balance is good, but look, we're seeing that. Look, last year, Philadelphia were the Supporters' Shield champions, and they got nowhere near the biggest wage bill. So I think sometimes that is over. The competitive balance element is sort of overplayed, and I think you could loosen the purse strings a little bit and loosen the mechanisms to allow clubs to create more depth. And it's not just about designated players, because in my view, the big difference between us and the Mexican clubs is depth of squad. It isn't the fact that you've not got, but look at Columbus. If they don't have Zelarayan playing, they were absolutely outclassed in that game. And they're supposedly our best team in the league. So, we have to look at ways to sort of increase the depth.
Well, Darren, you mentioned a lot about how last year Atlanta United kind of suffered by having to play in empty stadiums, that you missed that home stadium advantage with your fans not being able to attend. The next home match on May 15th, Mercedes-Benz Stadium will be open to 100% of its soccer capacity. How much is that going to help the club just from a competitive standpoint? Getting a full stadium back hopefully soon and maybe galvanizing this fan base behind this team a little bit.
Mike, I think it's hugely important. I mean, look, we spoke about there's a number of factors last season that made you disappointed, but there's no doubt, playing Mercedes-Benz Stadium with no fans or with the few fans that we had at the end of the season was just, was a real challenge for us compared to what we used to. I thought we saw even with Chicago, it was amazing, the crowd, but that was, with our 20,000, but the noise, the energy they created, I mean, that game felt like the pre-COVID days. And I think, that was no surprise that it was partly because we had a significant number of fans in the building. So now look forward to, 15th of May with a, full capacity in our soccer configuration. I think it's going to be a huge advantage. And it's part of what has made the club has been the number 17s and our fans in the building and the passion and the cheering and the chanting that they do throughout the whole game. And it's going to make a difference. And I think, for us, I'm excited because we're going to have it from May 15th onwards. So I think it's a real chance for us to make Mercedes-Benz Stadium a fortress, to be picking up those wins at home. Because in this tight, we spoke about it earlier, this Eastern Conference that's super tight, those thin margins that give you the edge are really important. And I'm excited for our fans to hopefully be able to make that difference.
What are some of the things that, while a challenge over the last year, dealing with COVID and all the effects on the business and on the team itself, what are some of the things that you feel like maybe the club has learned some new things that can help going forward once we get out of this?
That's a great question, Jason. Firstly, I think, and I don't think it's learned, but one of the things I've spoken about it a couple of times, and internally we've been looking at this season as almost like a relaunch, because we've almost had sort of 18 months without the supporters being there. And it's not that we ever took the supporters for granted, but I think what we realised last year was how much of an impact it made. They are the lifeblood of the sport. And I think it's not just here in America, but talking to colleagues in the Premier League in England, it's that feeling that we've sort of been going through the motions. Without the fans there, yes, we've done the product to get it for TV, but it isn't really what soccer's all about. And I think for me, that lesson, as we've approached this season, we did the kit launch, and we were the only club to do an actual live kit launch. And part of the reason for that is that we were really focused on trying to get back to what we were, how we built the club. And we were able to do it in the Home Depot backyard, socially distanced, like a sort of drive-in movie. But that was partly just to get back to what it is that, the way we built the club, going to those grassroots events, meeting the supporters where we could. And I think, that's one of the big lessons for me, is that, not that we ever would take our supporters for granted, but it was a reappreciation of how much they mean and the impact they have on the club. And frankly, the success of our club, yes, performance on the pitch is important, but this club was built before we even had a team out there on the pitch. And I think, that's the beauty of it, that we're able to create this club and this culture and this community where everybody's cheering on the team, win, lose or draw. And obviously we're always looking to put that competitive, exciting team on the pitch. But that was more about that feeling of camaraderie, that feeling of connection between the club, the city, the community and our fans. And I think that for me is something that I'm really excited about as we go into this season. It's almost like, it is like 2017 all over again. I heard now that the supporters may be doing a tailgate on the 15th. And, so I'm excited to be able to go back and be able to walk around that tailgate pre-match and start to redo the culture and the rituals that we built up around the club. So I think that's really important. I think the league, it's been a challenging year in particular for MLS. But the one thing I would say is I think with the ownership structure, I do think that there's a chance to come out of this stronger compared to other leagues around the world. And I think that's where, not to downplay the impact he's had, because it's been huge in terms of the revenue numbers, but I do think as a league we're better set to bounce back, and I think that's something that we'll be looking to do over the next couple of years, and to try and help use it as a launch pad for MLS to grow in the global sort of game.
Well, speaking of bouncing back, let's bounce back on Sunday and get the people. Darren, it's great to be with you, and thanks so much for joining us.
Cheers, guys. Good to talk.
Really glad that Darren spent some time with us on the AT&T Countdown to Kickoff. It was a great weekend, last weekend for Atlanta United 2, going out to Oklahoma City and getting 3 big points. And ATL UTD2 is off to a good start in the USL Championship season.
Yeah, it's a good win on the road against Oklahoma City, who's a team who has a lot of veterans. CJ Cochran from the Atlanta area in goal. They lost their opening match of the season to FC Tulsa. They were coming in looking to get 3 points at home. And the Twos went out with a little bit different group. We saw some first-team players get some significant minutes. Mateos Hosechu especially, 45 minutes for him in the first half. It was the second half, though, where the academy players came in that Atlanta United 2 had their breakthrough. Big save for Rocco Rios Novo, who ended up having another clean sheet in his career here in Atlanta. He's starting to rack these up a little bit, Rocco. But it was Coleman Gannon, it was Will Riley, it was Brendan Lamb, the academy players who made the difference ultimately for Atlanta United 2 in this match. And that's something we're starting to learn a little bit about this team is you've got guys coming through the academy who can play at this level with full professionals. Philip Goodrum is the one who slots home the goal, but it was created from Coleman Gannon working inside the 18, keeping the ball in. It's Brendan Lamb going up, winning a header, heading it right down to the feet of Will Riley. This is Coleman Gannon's part of the play here. Lamb goes up, picks out the header to Riley. Riley gets the control, dribbles past two, and then slips in a perfect pass that Goodrum slots home. Goodrum's battled some injuries in preseason. He's a guy who's been in the mix with the first team in CONCACAF Champions League play. He gets the goal. He put in a lot of work early on, but then he was injured late in the game. So it's really disappointing that he can't build on that momentum. We'll see how long he might be out. The Twos had to battle towards the end. Oklahoma City started throwing everything forward. They had some set pieces that caused some problems. Another great save here from Rocco Rios Novo. He gets just the slightest of touches to push it off the crossbar. And Atlanta United 2 gets a win, and gets a win on the road, which is difficult in USL Championship.
A win on the road, and another bonus. You mentioned Josetu playing 45 minutes. You had a number of first-team players who are having some difficulty getting into the team sheet right now with the first team, who were able to play at least 45 minutes in a competitive match on the road. That is one of the big reasons why the proving ground has been so important for Atlanta United.
It's critical. It's critical. We saw it in 2019 in the postseason when Mikey Ambrose had been playing regularly for the Twos, was ready to go when he was called on in the Eastern Conference semifinal against Philadelphia. It's critical for youth development. It's critical for players who, show like Jack Gurr that they come into the Twos program, they're ready to make that jump. It's critical for a guy like Josh Bauer this year getting those minutes, but it's also critical for established professionals who are coming back to fitness, whether it's an injury, Josetu's case, being away in Brazil, then having to quarantine. You want to get him sharp. The Twos are a very important part as a reserve program for the first team's success as well.
Well, let's take a look around MLS now. 3 weeks of the season in the books. The week 3 results are I think, starting to show some trends, Jason. I think now a couple teams, especially out in the Western Conference, it feels like a couple teams are really starting to separate now and form a group at the top of the Western Conference table. The parity in the Eastern Conference has been really something to see. And I think we had a demonstration of that actually on Saturday, with New England moving to the top of the table with a 2-1 win over Atlanta United, who's 5th on the table. But what really stood out to you about week 3 in MLS?
Salt Lake City is a big surprise right now. Real Salt Lake doing well with a couple of wins. They got a little bit of a surprising win over Kansas City. Dallas finally bouncing back to form with a win over Portland. Portland might have been looking ahead to CONCACAF this week. New York City has bounced back after a very disappointing start to the season in game 1, but back-to-back wins for them. Seattle also just keeps on rolling on with another win over the LA Galaxy, who we wondered if they were for real at this point. Maybe not yet. Maybe we'll find out more this weekend.
Austin might be for real, too. I'm really impressed with how they've played, and the seats might be getting a little warm up in Loonsland with Minnesota. But let's go to some of the highlights. You mentioned RSL had a really big win over SKC over the weekend.
Yeah, Rubio Rubin was the highlight here. He's got 2 goals and 2 assists now in his first 2 games in Major League Soccer. On the back post, just really perfectly slotted home for RSL. Sporting Kansas City took the lead here, and RSL, who we haven't really known what to make of coming into the season, they're showing their quality in a big way, and they haven't even gotten Bobby Wood into the team yet. When he comes in, RSL could be a little bit of a handful out west. Rubin had that first goal. Second one was even better, with some good work on the ball inside the 18 to create the space for himself. Gets 2 defenders going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and then he beats the goalkeeper to the near post. Orlando was really impressive in a win over Cincinnati. Cincinnati maybe surprised us in week 1 with a draw against Nashville. They haven't looked very impressive since. Really poor giveaway by Nick Hagland that is pounced on. That opened the scoring. Nani continues to be ridiculous for Orlando in the early season. He puts defenders on the ground, spinning around, gets back to the left foot, curls it in. Orlando, we saw them in week 1. They didn't feel like they were really in sync yet in that one. It was two teams that kind of canceled each other out. They're looking better and better and better. They're another team that I'm looking to see if we'll learn more about them this week as they face NYC. NYC, speaking of them, Tati Castellanos was nearly poleaxed by Jose Martinez, and Jose Martinez is going to get suspended for that one for a while. Castellanos got the best revenge you can get with a goal to put the game away. As good as Philadelphia has been in CONCACAF, disappointing in league play with home losses. Dallas mentioned them looking like they're starting to come together. They'd been very disappointing early on, but they take advantage of a Portland team that I do think was distracted by what they had coming up in CONCACAF. And you got great goals from Andres Ricarte, who's going to be critical for them in their success. And in this one, over the top, it's just a punt from the goalkeeper that gets over everybody. And Jader O'Brien slots it home with a great finish. You see it again. It's a simple punt that's misplayed. O'Brien just keeps going and just pops it over the goalkeeper. Great finish from O'Brien. We expected fireworks in San Jose and DC. It did not disappoint. Cade Cowell has been involved in 5 of San Jose's 8 goals this season as a teenager. Really, really impressive. Jackson Ewell, also really impressive when you hit shots like that from 25 yards out on a volley. The captain of this team, it feels like Jackson Ewell is really growing up and becoming a player that you have to follow when you start talking about U.S. men's national team. And in Seattle, we talked about how good they've been. Raul Ruidiaz has been incredible in the early going. Seattle's playing a little bit different way here now with 2 up top. You know, it's something that we questioned a bit coming into the year. Would they be able to be as successful in a different formation with no Jordan Morris? What would it look like? Brian Schmetzer proves us all wrong again, and now this week it continues to ramp up for them. They go to Portland to face their eternal rivals, the Timbers, on national TV on Sunday.
Yeah, it's kind of a rivalry week in MLS. You have the Cascadia, you have El Tráfico, that I guess that term's kind of frowned upon now, but
Some
the
people
LA
like
Galaxy.
it.
I like it. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but you got a lot of rivalry matches. You've got the Texas Derby. The Dallas-Portland match, by the way, had a lot of saltiness involved. But as you look at the week 4 schedule, there's some really compelling matches here. In Atlanta United, Inter Miami, I think you can qualify that as a rivalry match now. But what stands out to you the most outside of the Atlanta United match in this 4th week of MLS play?
Look, Saturday, I'm going to be set all day. It'll be Nashville and New England for me at 1:30. It'll be Dallas and Houston at 3:30. Orlando and NYC at 6. The El Tráfico match at 8 o'clock. I think I'll probably be done at that point, but there is Colorado and Minnesota, which is a pretty compelling game at the end of the night. The Loons have to get a win here because that seat continues to get hot.
No doubt about it. All right, let's focus now on Atlanta United, Inter Miami, 1 o'clock Sunday afternoon in Fort Lauderdale. And I think conditions are going to be a factor, which kind of goes into my prediction, which we'll have in a moment. But, you know, Inter Miami and Atlanta United, they played 4 times last year. Both teams are a lot different. Remember, Atlanta United, they were without Joseph Martinez. They were without Pity Martinez in all 4 matches they played against Inter Miami last year. In a couple matches, they didn't have a single designated player. Inter Miami has brought in a player from Brazil, Gregory, who has been very, very impactful for them in their first couple matches.
Yeah, this is a player in Gregory who has really given them, I think, what they were missing at times last year in that midfield. He frees up Blaise Matuidi to get forward more. Good season for him on a bad team in Brazil at Bahia. But he's a guy who is not just a pure defensive midfielder, as you see on a run like this. He wins the ball about 30 yards from his own goal, carries it about 60 yards, and creates an opportunity going the other way. Those are the things that Miami really lacked last year. It felt like when they were pinned in, they sat back, they couldn't flip the field very easily. outside of just going long. In my opinion, what Gregory really gives you the most is he makes the other midfielders better on this team. They can trust him to do the defensive side of the ball. He can contribute in other phases as well, but Blaise Matuidi doesn't have to work as hard on the defensive side, which you need to conserve his energy. Rodolfo Pizarro can push forward more and take more chances because he knows he's got more support behind him. I think it's still early days. There's still questions about how effective Gregory will be adjusting to a different style of play, a more physical league, a league that kind of has some different ebbs and flows to it. He hasn't shown everything he can do yet, but I think it was the perfect kind of signing for Miami. And I hope that he does hit the ground in a better way for them just starting next week.
Indeed. I also thought Miami made some smart pickups, bringing in a couple Seattle players, Kelvin Leerdam, Jovan Jones. Now, Leerdam's been hurt, and in fact, injuries could be a big storyline in this game for both teams, but especially Inter Miami. Leerdam not at 100%. Nico Figal, we know he is out, so the right back situation becomes very, very cloudy for Inter Miami. Robbie Robinson, who has become a really, really nice young player for Inter Miami, he's going to be out as well. So we were talking about it earlier, Jason. I think there are going to be some opportunities for Atlanta United to really have some success attacking down the right side on Sunday.
Yeah, Leerdam did not train on Thursday. He is expected to play, but when you miss training a few days beforehand, how effective can you be? And there isn't another option. With Figal out, you don't have anybody who can easily slot into that right back position. So how does Phil Neville play this? We're still kind of trying to figure that out. Does he try to sit and counter? They've only had 40% of the ball this season. Do they decide to defend and maybe have an extra holding midfielder? Maybe have Ulloa come in and play next to Gregory with Matuidi in front. Maybe, Rodolfo Pizarro plays out wide on the right because that's an open spot too. The whole right side is a problem for Miami. I don't know how this goes. I think it'll be trying to play Leerdam. But we saw last week in Nashville, Phil Neville tried to play Robbie Robinson, and he only got 11 minutes out of him before having to sub the sub. I don't know how much he's going to push Leerdam if he's not 100%. But if he doesn't, I have no idea what the solution is.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Inter Miami did concede a lot of possession against Nashville last Sunday. They only had 5 shots in the entire match and about 40% of the possession. Want to get to some predictions, which, by the way, you and I have not really been awesome on so far in the first 3 weeks of the year.
No, we haven't.
All right, I feel good about this one, though. And hear me out. It's a little bit of a lengthy explanation. I think Atlanta United is going to have a substitute produce a goal or an assist in this match.
Hey, I tried that one before.
Okay, well, I'm stealing your idea. I hope you don't mind. But there's a method behind my madness. I think conditions are going to be a big factor. You're playing in the middle of the day in the month of May in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. It's going to be warm. It's probably going to be humid. Atlanta United's going to have to make subs. They played Tuesday night. They might have some players out injured to begin with. So I'm sure Heinze is going to have to make some subs. Inter Miami, we just went through their situation. They're really out of options at right back right now. Robinson is out. The Higuain brothers, we aren't 100% sure if they can give you 90 right now. They've been out of the team. They're back in. I really think Atlanta United is going to be able to impact this match late with fresh legs coming on as substitutes. I don't know who it's going to be. Might be Josetu. Might be Jackson Conway. I don't know. But I think Atlanta United's going to have a substitute produce a goal or an assist. And I promise I was not trying to steal your idea. I just kind of sort of forgot that was one of your predictions earlier in the year.
Yeah, no, not my idea for this one. It's fair game. I tried it earlier. It ended up not working out for me. I hope it works out for you this weekend. My prediction is you will see somebody new get a start for Atlanta United this weekend. Somebody who has not started a game this season. I think 7 games in a month is a lot, and you might need to freshen it up, especially considering the conditions in Fort Lauderdale for an early kick on a Sunday afternoon. Feels like Atlanta teams always struggle with those early start times. Outside of the Falcons, are used to it, but I always remember Hawks games being difficult when they'd have a 12:30 or a 1 o'clock tip. You want some fresh legs to make it difficult for a banged up Miami team, and especially again on that right side. So does that mean a Mateos Hosechu? Is he ready to get a start? Does that mean a Mikey Ambrose potentially to have George Bello fresh for the second half or the last 30 minutes? I think there will be a new starter in the 11 this time around who has not started a match in MLS play for Atlanta United.
I really love that Mikey Ambrose shout. I think that makes sense from a lot of different reasons. Remember, Bello did not start the match up in New England. Maybe the plan was to give him a night off, and then unfortunately you had the injury to Jurgen Damm. Bello had to come in. You had to reshape. Mikey Ambrose also played for Inter Miami last year, so there's a familiarity factor as well. I love that shout, and I would love to see Mikey Ambrose have a good day on Sunday. One thing that I think you will figure out as you continue to watch us week by week here on the AT&T Countdown to Kickoff, Jason and I, we don't get any hints on the team sheet at all.
So,
no. Mikey Ambrose might not even be in Fort Lauderdale on Sunday, but I have a feeling he will be. I agree with Jason, but I think you're going to find out very soon. We don't really get a lot of hints. We're kind of doing that on the fly with our predictions, which makes this segment a lot of fun. But anyhow, we hope you're enjoying the AT&T Countdown to Kickoff, our new expanded format. Please leave us a comment on the bottom of your screen. If there's any one that you would like to hear from in our interview segment, if there are any features that you'd like us to cover on the AT&T Countdown to Kickoff, this show is for you, the Atlanta United supporters. We want to make it content that you want to see. So leave us a comment, and thank you so much for watching again. Jason and I will be on the radio 12:30 Sunday afternoon for the Five Stripes Countdown on Sports Radio 92.9 The Game. The match will be shown on ABC, and the kickoff will be a little after 1 o'clock from Fort Lauderdale on Sunday. We will see you next week as we preview Atlanta United's match against Montreal as Atlanta United comes back home to Mercedes-Benz Stadium. That'll be next week on the AT&T Countdown to Kickoff.